She is Associate Professor of Theater at American University. Gail and I have worked for many years on arts integration projects, and a few years ago we were sitting at a restaurant talking about what her Fulbright might shape up to be, and she told me about this project. And I told her that I had the same sort of interest in Holocaust and dramatizing different aspects of it. And so that's how we got connected. She has directed The Smoke of Home, which is the play within the play, written by two survivors, or two people in Terezin. One was a survivor and one died in Auschwitz. But she had the chance to direct that in Prague during her Fulbright. And she also performed it at Terezin. And that is one thing I want her to talk to you about. And she is currently working on I Never Saw Another Butterfly, which is an extension of last spring's American University-wide initiative on the Voices of Terezin project. So we'll hear a lot about these things.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and to work with Raina. The project itself, Voices of Terezin, really has its own life and has guided me. I'm not guiding it. When I applied for Fulbright, my mother was Czech, and I'd been doing Czech theater for over a decade, and a lot of American debuts of Czech playwrights and plays that were cutting edge in Prague, and doing them with the Embassy of the Czech Republic in Washington. And I applied for the Fulbright because I wanted to teach and to live in Prague and continue my work, but I didn't have a directing project at the time. And I am a director. I've done over 130 productions. And in my Fulbright application, I basically said a directing project will unfold. Well, indeed, it did unfold. And it was quite extraordinary. I had been on a panel in Český Budějovice, a panel about Americans doing Czech theater and about those of us reaching out in varying ways using the arts. And Lisa Peschel happened to be on that panel. She has, since that time, written a book, quite an extraordinary book, published in Czech and in German. It will be forthcoming in English, on the theater of Terezin. And she talked about, I was very interested. Well, right after I received my Fulbright notification, the Fulbright sent out a newsletter announcing that she had been acknowledged for her extraordinary work. And I promptly emailed her and said, "Where are you with all of this?" And she said, "This is where I am. And by the way, would you be interested in directing a script that I have discovered in the course of my research that turned out to be Smoke of Home?" And indeed, I was interested. It was performed at the Divadlo Inspirace in Prague, a wonderful theater in the basement of the Liechtenstein Palace, probably what was the wine cellar. You'll see an image of it in a short DVD I have. And through a series of circumstances, I was also then able to direct the play on site at Terezin in the attic theater, the Magdeburg Barracks, where a lot of the theater was actually done. And I understand some of you have been to Terezin. You probably didn't see the attic theater. They don't usually put that as part of the tour, and I had been to Terezin several times and had not been in the theater. It was an amazing experience to work there. I had 3 Czech actors, a British actor, and an American who's been living in Prague so long he considers himself Czech, and he's fluent. It was magnificent for me because I don't speak Czech. My grandparents did, and I was discouraged from speaking Czech, and so as an adult I'm making up for it. Believe me, I am making up for it and trying to pick up on the Czech. I have a very short DVD, it's 3.5 minutes, just to give you snippets of Terezin, snippets of the rehearsal process with the actors, and then you'll see snippets at Divadlo Inspirace and at Terezin. And the irony is that as I show you this today, on the cover of the article that I have over here, you'll see a picture of me with Mirzhenka Chekova, who was my co-director and was in the production. And Mirzhenka, I'm happy to say, just arrived last evening in the United States to be a Fulbrighter at my institution. She's coming to American U, and she'll be doing her one-woman performance of Anna Frank and doing workshops and teaching for us. And it was her dream to come to the United States and to be a Fulbrighter. So as I said, this production just continues to have its own life. We will be presenting Voices of Terezin at the Florida Holocaust Museum in spring of 2012 as part of a Genocide Awareness Month, and sort of using the play and the workshops as anchors. And as Raina said, I'm also doing Butterfly right now. I Never Saw Another Butterfly, which is a dramatization based on the stories, the poetry, the drawings of the children who were incarcerated at Terezin. And I chose to do that, to extend the project to really reach out to teachers and to young people. And last week I did 8 workshops with 7th graders and several of my cast members. And I am constantly reminded about the power of the arts to reach, to resonate, to connect with us in certain ways. I am eternally humbled by this work. I mentioned to Raina, I vary between times of intellectual distance and great emotional outpouring as I work on the material, sort of depending where I am in the process. And I am working on a chapter in a book entitled Witnessing the Holocaust, which 2 extraordinary psychotherapists are writing based on a lot of their work with interviews with survivors and those of us who are working on projects around the Holocaust. So I'll show you this little bit, and then I think it'll be very informal. Raina's going to ask me a few questions. Please feel free to just sort of dialogue. Besides the group in the back row, who else has been to Terezin? Anyone else in the group? That just gives you a glimpse of the productions in the
So what was it like doing this production at Terezin?
It was the most challenging and touching experience that I have ever had as a director. And my predilection as a director, as one of my friends likes to say, is always to deal with difficult material and difficult dialogue. This is just, I do theater to engage and provoke thought around significant issues. But this was the toughest, and there was something about the authentic experience of doing it on site. And those of you who have been to Terezin know that there's something haunting there. You experience something, but to be in the theater space and to direct was quite amazing. And then, the content of the play deals with, so you're dealing with a metaphor, the home that we long for in times of war no longer really exists, thus the smoke of home. So it's metaphor. It's set in the 30 Years' War, and we did it first in Prague, and it was touching and tough. But then the actors even were amazingly impacted. We got there and had time to rehearse and run the show twice, and we had planned on doing it one more time. And they said, "Gail, can we just go outside and not run it again and just do it tonight?" And they're pretty tough, seasoned folk. They just needed some breathing space because there was sort of a connection and the conduit that art represents. And then afterward, Kate Eliash, Raina mentioned one of the two playwrights, survived. Zdeněk Eliash and Jerzy Stein perished. Kate came up to me and said, she flew in to be there and said, I could hear my husband's voice. Because the two main characters were definitely, I didn't know which was which. I didn't know which was Zdeněk and which was Jerzy. I had a guess. And she grabbed my hand and said that, and I said, well, you must say that to the actor who played the part. And the actor who did that was the American who'd been living in Prague, Matthew Bloodsmith. And Matthew said, when she said that to him, he couldn't speak. And I was sort of sad because during rehearsal he always had something to say. He was just one of those actors who contributes a lot. And I think he was reminded about the power of the arts, the integrity of what you do when you perform, and in your own way, witness through the arts. And that's the fascinating thing for me about doing all of this theater, because you're taking something from the past, you're taking those stories, you're presenting them in the present so they resonate, and hopefully you're provoking people to action, to consider possibilities for the future. We anchored the production at AU around a great deal of dialogue in terms of social justice issues that are current and relevant today, and challenged our audiences and all of us to think about social obligation. And I found that in my honors course. I taught an honors colloquium on this subject last spring, coinciding with the production. And I had a philosophy student in the course who mentioned something quite extraordinary in his final portfolio. They had to do creative projects and critical essays. And he said, as a philosophy student, I am taught to think and to speak about my thoughts and to analyze. And I am now beginning to think about the connection of thought and feeling in a different way because this material has touched me. And I think this material touches all of us in different ways.